How is everybody doing today? I am at a little bit different angle today. I needed to sit down so y'all can see my space. I hope everybody has had a great week so far. And so today we are going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about cutting accurately and some different tips and tricks to make sure that you are cutting your pieces consistently and accurately. A lot of people say their piecing is horrible, or they struggle with their piecing and getting accurate block sizes when you're done. Well, the very first step of that is your accurate cutting. So we're going to talk about that. Next time we're going to talk about your seam allowance, how to make sure that it's actually what it's supposed to be, how to test it, how to adjust it, that kind of fun stuff. So I hope y'all are in for the ride. The first thing I want to remind y'all is September 1st, we are starting our next sew along. Again, in the past, it's been projects that I have created, my own designs for y'all to do. This time we're going to do a not pre-made, we're going to use somebody else's pattern. This right here is the book that we're going to be using. I do have them in the shop. It's the Quilter's 10-inch scrap square pre-cuts companion. Guys, this book is only $10. A normal pattern for a quilt is going to cost you about $10. This has over 20 blocks in it, and how to make it, how to adjust your quilt size, all of that stuff. There's some good information in here, but it does show you how to give you the instructions for over 20 different blocks. So we're going to be making this one right here. You do need to buy the pattern. In the past, everything has always been free. You just had to get your own fabrics and supplies together. This time you will need to buy the pattern, buy this book, because I am not going to we're going to walk through each step, but I'm not going to give you specifics on what size to cut and that kind of thing, because this is a copyrighted pattern and I'm not going to infringe on that copyright and take money out of their pockets when they have worked so hard on this. When you copy and share patterns, that's not only illegal, but you're essentially stealing from that person and taking money out of their pockets, and that's not okay. So we are going to use this book. Again, we're going to make this one right here. You're going to need, as far as supplies, other than the book, so it's called Prairie Flowers Quilt. You're going to need and I just happen to have, guys, these bags are awesome. I showed it last week. They're really, really nice. They're vinyl. They protect your fabric. They're sturdy. This one's a 13 by 13. I have a 10 by 13 also in the shop right here. It's just a little bit smaller. But if you're going to have something with 10-inch squares, you need the 13 by 13. And again, this is everything I need for my sew-along quilt. And it all fits perfectly in that bag. So right here, I have my 10-inch squares. You're going to need one 10-inch square pack. This is Cinnaberry from Moda. It's a few years old. I had to order some more fabric for the border. It was kind of hard to find. So as much as I love this, I don't know. I mean, you can look around. I did see some pre-cuts, but the yardage was harder to find. But if you want to try to find it, it's really, really nice. I don't have it. Again, this is out of my stash. So you're going to need a 10-inch square pack, layer cake, stacker, whatever. They all call it something different because they've all trademarked the names. So, but you need 42 10-inch squares. Even if you want to cut yourself, that's totally fine also. So, and then you're going to need 3.5 yards of background fabric. This is what I chose to go with this. I do have this in the store. I have it. This is a Andover linen texture. I have it in this color, and I have it in black also. I love this stuff. If you watched last week's video, you will see how much I love. This is just a really good, if you need an accent color, if you need a background, if you need something just to make it pop, this is a great line to do that with. And I'll continually be adding more colors, but right now I just have the two. But they're really, really good. You're going to need 1.5 yards of a border print. I had to order some more of this because I had just had 1 yard of it in my stash. I did find another yard and it's on its way. And this is my binding. It's from the same line also, but it's going to give it a darker kind of finish on the outside. Okay, so that's what you're going to need. You're going to need the book, a 10-inch square pack, 3.5 yards of background fabric, 3/4 of a yard of binding, and 1.5 yards for your border. If you have any questions, just holler at me. I'm happy to answer any questions, give you more specifics, whatever. I have quite a few 10-inch square packs here in the shop. I'm happy. I've got some yardage that would work really well for backgrounds on some of them, and I'm happy to try to help you coordinate that. And there's even some of them that like the Gingham Gardens line, I think it's Gingham Gardens, I think that's what it is. That line, I do have some yardage that would be able to make the border out of, so I can help you put together a kit if that's what you would like for me to do. I am more than happy to do that. Okay, so like I said, that's going to start August 1st. You need to have everything in place before then, if at all possible. I have a couple of the books in the shop now. I have more on the way. They should be shipping today and be here hopefully by the end of the week. And so we will, actually hopefully by the time this goes up, I should have them in stock. So today we're going to talk about accurate cutting. Again, when you're quilting, if you're doing something like it's all 10-inch squares, if you're off 1/8 of an inch on some of the squares, it's not as crucial as if when you start getting into some more complicated patterns. It's very, very important that you cut accurately, especially if you're doing mini quilts or small, like 4 and 5 inch blocks. The smaller the block and the more pieces in the block, the more your cutting and seam allowance matter. 1/8 of an inch across a 1 10-inch piece is not a huge thing. Your block's going to be off by 1/8 of an inch. But if you're 1/8 of an inch off of 5 pieces, that's 5/8 of an inch. That means your quilt's going to be over 1/2 inch off. Your block is, not your quilt. Your block is. And then you start trying to put blocks together and they don't match. This is why. So the number one step to accurate piecing and quilting and all that kind of stuff and making everything line up nice and pretty is accurate cutting. So basic cutting supplies that you're going to need are your cutting mat. I love Quilter Select. I love their rulers. I hated them when I first started using them. So if you've tried them and you're not a fan, give it a little bit of time. I was so used to being able to slide my ruler to where I wanted it and then just push it down with everything I had to hold it in place while I cut, that I couldn't just move that. So let me get a piece of fabric. And their mats are made to work with their rulers. So these are more slick than like this red mat is. This red mat is not a Quilter Select. It's still in decent shape. I've had it for years, so I haven't replaced it yet. I'm not a big person that's going to say, go buy all new stuff, the new best whatever. There are a few things that I will say, this is worth the money. This is worth the investment. These are definitely worth the investment, but when you need to. I have slowly replaced some of my rulers and added sizes and that kind of stuff. So you're going to need a good quality mat. Some of the green mats and some of them are a lot rougher and they will wear your blades out a lot faster, but sometimes it's just worth the investing a little bit more money. I'm going to start with this one. Again, these are the Quilter Select rulers. They have a film on the back, or a coating on the back. I can't just move this over. If I flip it over, see how this is sliding? Because that's not the side with the coating. That's what you're going to get with most rulers. And so you've got to hold it down and try to cut without it moving. If I do this, and I lay it down, one finger, it's not moving. If anything, the fabric will move. It's not moving on the fabric, and I can cut. I'm not having to bear down on it. I'm not having to strain myself to hold it in place. It's gonna hold in place. I mean, literally one finger, and it's not moving on the fabric. It will slide on the mat. If you're using this mat, it doesn't slide as well on the red one or the green ones. But, so you want a good quality mat, if at all possible. If you can't afford it, I get it. Get what you can afford. But a good quality will last you longer, and it's more cost effective in the long run. A good ruler and your rotary cutter. We were first responders. I'm a huge advocate for safety. I know several people, and I've done it myself. I've got the end of my finger before. Almost needed stitches. Didn't get blood on the fabric. Guys, it happens. You lose track. So think of it. I'm going to give you a safety lesson. Some of you have heard this before. Think of it as cutting a steak with a butter knife or with a dull knife compared to a nice sharp steak knife. Okay? When you're cutting that meat, if you've got a nice sharp knife, it cuts super nicely, right? Just like butter. Slide it through. If you're trying to cut it with the dull blade, a dull knife or a butter knife, or one that's not made for cutting meat, it tears. Your finger is essentially meat. Your skin is basically meat. So when you go to the hospital because you've sliced the end of your finger, and it happens, and accidents happen, if you've got a nice sharp blade and it cuts it nice and evenly, it is so much easier for the doctors to repair it than if you are, if it tears. So if you cut a piece of paper with scissors and you try to tape it back together and make everything line up, it's so much easier than if you tore the paper, right? So you're going to have a much harder time piecing it back together if it's been torn. That's the difference between an old blade and a new blade in your cutter. Are they super cheap? No. New blades are cheaper than an emergency room visit. The other thing is that if you are using a dull blade, you have to put more pressure on it. You are more likely to lose control of what you're doing if you have a dull blade and you're having to press. If you have a dull blade, if you've got too many layers of fabric, just replace your blade. I actually did some research and I looked at my suppliers to see what options I could offer, because honestly, guys, this is a big enough deal to me. I was going to offer it to you at my cost. Amazon. I actually order my blades from Amazon because they're cheaper on Amazon than I can get them wholesale from my supplier. Why? I don't know. I always buy Alpha brand. I have tried a couple of other ones, but they're not cut well or not lasted very long. And so guys, just buy good blades. Again, Amazon, they cost $3 or $4 a piece. You can usually get through a couple of projects with them. Factor it into the cost of your projects. And again, a $3 or $4 blade is much cheaper than having to go to the emergency room because you lost control because you were bearing down on it, or having to have extra surgeries because it took more to repair your finger than had you had a good blade in it. I've seen it happen. Again, I've nicked the end of my finger before. It was a clean cut. I was able to just bandage it up and it grew back. Not everybody's that lucky. I know someone that cut off the whole, basically almost her whole fingerprint. And because she was bearing down too hard on it. So change your blade. I was actually trimming quilts the other day and noticed that trying to go through the layers of the quilt and the seams and everything, I stopped and put a new blade on. So I always buy Alpha. Like I said, I've tried some of the other ones. please, please, please don't go to Harbor Freight and buy your blades. Those are made for, but don't buy carpet cutting blades. Don't, you know, it's like using your good scissors on paper. It wears it down. Or paper scissors are not made for cutting fabric and they don't do as good of a job. Same thing with the blades. Those blades are not made for cutting fabric. They're not going to be as accurate. So please don't. It's for your safety. I'm telling you to go to Amazon. I'm not making any more money off of it. I just want you to be safe. So there is my soapbox for the day. So make sure you've got a cutter that's comfortable to you. I like this. This is what's comfortable in my hand. Some people love I know people that swear by the Quilter Select cutters. Didn't fit well in my hand. They are weighted, so you don't have to put as much pressure down. Some people absolutely love them. It didn't work for me. I stick with these. I have a couple of these. They work really well for me. So back to the rulers. If you don't have a non-slip surface on your rulers, there's a couple of things that you can try. Some of the newer rulers have like little rough dots on the edges, and for some people that's enough. My original rulers didn't have anything. So there's a couple of options. I'm actually sold out of this right now, and it's weird about shipping aerosols anyway. There's more regulations. This is called Grippy, and you spray it on the back of your ruler. And so it forms a film that's very similar to this. And it's supposed to, I have not actually tried it yet, but it's supposed to make it like similar to a Quilter Select ruler so that it doesn't slip and slide. Another option is this Invisigrip, and I do have some of these in the shop. They cost $9.99. You get, I think, yeah, it's 12.5 inches by 1 yard, so 12.5 by 36. It's just a film. You're gonna lay it down. You're gonna cut it out to be the size of your template. So these Hexamajig templates don't come with anything, and they're pretty slick. It's a project I did a while back. It's just, so I just laid this, so if this is my film that's in the package, and I unroll it, and I lay this down, and I cut around it. I cut it about 1/8 of an inch short, so I cut it out all the way around it, and then I trim off about 1/8 of an inch all the way around, so it's just inside the edge. And then you just place it on there, and it's not sticky, it's just a cling material. There's no adhesive, it's not sticky, it's not any of that kind of stuff. I'm not sure what that's about. Anyway, so it's going to keep it from, it's not perfect, but it's much, much better than it was. Again, you see how much this is doing? Guys, I'm putting the same pressure. So it's going to help you keep it from slipping and sliding and make it safer for you, and also more accurate. So if you don't have something on the back of your ruler and you are slipping and sliding everywhere, these are just a couple of products. There's little dots you can put on the bottom. I haven't tried any of those. I've not heard great things about them, but it is another possibility. Little sandpaper dots, things like that, if you want to. The next thing about cutting your fabric is using the proper size ruler. This is a 10-inch square. This is my 6 by 12. If I'm going to cut 2.5-inch strips, which is a pretty common size, on a 10-inch square, I don't necessarily want to use my 24-inch ruler. That's a little excessive. Can I? Yeah, I can, and it will work. And there have been times that I've done it. If you can and you have it available, use the proper size ruler. If that's all you have, use it. But if you can, use the proper size ruler. So I'm going to line this up. I want to find your line. So 2.5 inches is right here. Find your line on here. If you are someone who gets confused about all the lines, here's some tricks. Okay, 1, painter's tape can be your best friend. Now, I'm going to the length of my, I'm going to tear a piece the length of my thing. I don't want to put this straight on the line because I need to see that the line is on the edge of my fabric. But if I'm somebody that's going to get off a little bit by all the lines, I'm going to put this about an 1/16 to an 1/8 of an inch just off the line. I can still see the line, and I can see just past the line. So now, when I line my fabric up, every single time I know that this line right here is where the edge of my fabric needs to be. Okay? Then I'm going to make a cut. Guys, it should slide like butter. No issues. Keep a good blade. Okay, so now I've got my 2.5 inch strip. If you're somebody that sometimes cuts them, just gets off on the lines, you can confusing, and it can be confusing, especially if you're not used to it. This is an option. Okay. Another option is if you've got, you want to cut 5-inch squares. This is a 6-inch square. Do the same thing. Oops. Let's do it over here. Again, just past the line so I can see the edges of the line. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to do, because I'm cutting 5-inch squares, now I'm going to do it the other way. Okay. This also helps if you're fussy cutting. Okay. Just going to tear it off at the ends so that it doesn't wrap underneath. So now if I want to fussy cut, say this set of flowers, I can see exactly where that's going to land. This is the window that I'm trying to cut. And I can see how it's going to land. So this not only helps with your accuracy, it helps with your fussy cutting. So that is an option for marking your rulers. Another option is to use a marker. Guys, these are acrylic. You can write on them. Write your name. Mark it. If you're going to a class and you're taking your tools, mark your tools. This is a dry erase marker. Don't recommend it for marking your tools because guess what? It's gone. And even if somebody wasn't doing that on purpose to take your things, what's going to happen is you're going to use this and you're going to touch it and it's going to come off. Use a Sharpie. Another trick I will tell you is if this right here, if I write my name backwards underneath and then put this film on top, it doesn't wear off. That'll also help you mark your stuff. So if I wanted to, if I don't have any painter's tape or I needed something else to mark, and I want to mark, let's say I want to mark this 2.5 inch square. We use a Sharpie. I'm going to mark that 2.5 inch square. Okay. So I know, and I can still see the line well enough, that kind of thing. Well, when I'm done, well, now I'm done. I need to do a 3.5 inch square. So I'm going to draw a 3.5 inch on here. Well, now, am I going to get confused on which lines I'm using? So, there's a trick to this. School teachers, Sunday school teachers, whatever, if you have whiteboards in your classroom, you're going to want to pay attention. If somebody marks on your whiteboard, this will work on any surface that a dry erase marker will come off of. Somebody marks on it with a Sharpie. We had this happen at church one time. I let him sweat till class was over and then I fixed it. So this is not going to come off, right? If I go over this with a dry erase marker, it comes off. And so you can see my other line here, so you know that that line was right across here. It comes off. It'll work on glass, acrylic, dry erase, boards, anything like that. Probably your bathtub, if a kid takes a Sharpie to your bathtub. Of course, it doesn't work on fabrics and things like that, but it will work on a lot of other surfaces. So always give that a try. Now it's clean and I can start new. You can also use colored Sharpies on here so that it's more vibrant and easier for you to see. I really like the tape idea, but at times I've used a Sharpie for various reasons. So that is another issue. A couple of years ago, we went to a retreat and the ladies were cutting 2-inch squares. There's my 2-inch strip. Okay, they were cutting 2-inch squares. They were using the board to measure. While that works, technically, you're going to be much more accurate if you're using the lines on your ruler. If you can, you want to use your ruler. Now, there's a time where you're cutting 27-inch strips or 27-inch pieces. You're going to need to use your mat. But if you're cutting small pieces, use the lines on your ruler, not the lines on your mat. The other suggestion I have is you try as much as possible to use the same brand of ruler. So I've always heard use the same tape measure across a job. Same thing with your rulers. Different manufacturers may have a slightly different definition of an inch. So when you're cutting small pieces, especially when you're cutting 1 inch, 1.5, 2-inch pieces, that matters. That little smidge of a difference, you know, a couple of threads spread over 5 pieces in a block can make a difference. So you're going to want to use the same brand if at all possible. But if you can't, just double check everything, make sure you're good. Again, I could line it up right here and then try to hold it still while I put this here. See, I'm already fighting it. Try to line this up and keep this other still. Am I still lined up over there? All of those things. Why? Just plop this down. I'm going to line it up 2.5, 2.5. Make sure all my lines are... I keep mine locked. You will notice I lock it back as soon as I'm done. Accidents happen. Now I've got my 2.5-inch square. And we are ready to go. So practice your accurate cutting. Again, this is the first step in accurate piecing, and you want to do everything you can to be as accurate as possible. If you're just sewing 10-inch squares together, is it imperative? Not as much. But again, I was making some little 4.5-inch blocks for a shop sample a while back, and I had to make some adjustments because they were coming out at 4.25 and not 4.5. And when I go to put the whole quilt together, it's not going to fit. So it's just important to pay attention to these things. This is the #1 step for learning to piece accurately, is to learn to cut accurately. If you have any questions, suggestions, anything like that, type them in the comments. We always have room to learn. I learn new stuff all the time, sometimes from y'all, sometimes from other places. So let's just share the wealth. So, and the knowledge. So, that's all I have for y'all today. Just a reminder, if you're seeing this, make sure you're following my pages, Aunt Ree's Quilt Shop. All of my pages across the board. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Make sure that you've got notifications set up so when the videos get posted or I go live, you're notified. And I hope y'all have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.